Today, I'm looking at the Pro Card Reader from Freewell. Will it change my workflow when on the road? Let's take a look. I'm always looking to make my travel setup more efficient, so when Freewell reached out to me and offered to send me their new Pro Card Reader, a device that consolidates multiple card readers and storage into one device, I was pretty excited to try it out. Now I know, YouTube gear reviews, can you really trust them? And though Freewell did send me this Pro Card Reader, they did not coach me on what to say or require a review of what I was going to upload before it goes live. With that said, I will say I tend to only accept things if it's something that has my interest or something I think can solve a workflow problem or improve some part of my process. Anyways, let's get into it. So because of the YouTube channel, I tend to use several different types of memory cards over the course of an outing or trip between my stills camera and video cameras. So for example, my Nikon Z7 II has two card slots. One card is a CF Express Type B. One card is an SD card. Then my main video camera, which I'm using right now, is a Nikon Z30, and it uses an SD card. But recently I've been using more and more of the DJI products, including something like the Pocket 3, which uses a micro SD card, as well as the DJI Action 4, which also uses a micro SD card. So because I have to use all these different cards, when I'm out on a trip, I like to be able to back up my data. So every night I'll take my photos, get my video, and I'll make backups. But now that means I need to take my CF Express card reader, my SD card reader, my micro SD card reader, or my little adapter for my micro SD card to an SD card so I can back it up. So when I found out you can use something like the Freewell Pro Card Reader that can read all of those types of cards in here, including CF Express Type A cards, that was something that I thought could help improve my workflow, because now instead of having to look for all three of my devices and make sure I remembered them all to take with me on my double checks and my triple checks, it just consolidates it all down into one device. So a little bit less space, and it makes it easier when I'm just double or triple checking. I just have to find this one device, make sure it's in my bag, and I know I can back up all the files that I'm going to accumulate on a trip. So let's look at how the card reader helps with all this. The Freewell Pro Card Reader retails for $139.99, though it's been on sale at launch for $99.99. Comes in this nice little compact box. And inside this box is you have the Pro Card Reader. So it's got all the reading bits on this. Comes with a carabiner so you can clip it to your bag, or what I would do is clip it more securely inside my bag. It comes with a USB-C to USB-A adapter in case you don't have USB-C, because this connects via USB-C. And it comes with an eject pin in case you're using one of these smaller SIM cards and you have one of those little spots. This fits right here in the housing, just like this. As you can see, it's a relatively small, thin device, and it's kept in this aluminum housing. It just sort of snaps in here like this, nice and secure. And it measures about 2 inches wide by 5 inches long and 1 inch thick. Again, this carabiner clip, you can clip it to your bag, you can clip it to inside your bag, which is more what I would do. I would tether it to something inside my bag so it didn't accidentally fall out. Now this reader can read the following types of cards. It can read a CF Express Type A card, it can read a CF Express Type B card, an SD card, and a micro SD card. Now, Freewell calls the micro SD card a TF card or a trans flash card, and it's really the same thing. They're both sort of interchangeable. I actually think the reason they call it the lesser used TF card as opposed to a micro SD card is because when they're labeling this device in different spots, TF fits on there a little easier. But don't get confused because they call it a TF. It's really the same thing as a micro SD card. Now, it does use a USB-C connection to connect to your computer, or it can also connect to an iPad or tablet or something like that with a USB-C connection. And this USB-C connection is good for up to 10 gigabits per second. So now, if I toss this reader into my tech pouch, I can read all of the cards that I care about, the CF Express B, SD card, and the micro SD card. But this device also offers storage as well. It can house 6 micro SD cards or 6 TF cards, 3 SD cards, one here, one over here. It can hold a CF Express Type B card, a CF Express Type A card, and 2 nano SIM cards over here. So not only can it act as a card reader, but it can also act as a card storage spot, which helps you consume even less space in your bag because you can use this as a reader and as a storage device for your spare cards while you're out in the field. And I will also note that these cards fit in there very securely. They're in there nice and good. It takes a little bit of pressure and force to move them out of there, which I think is good because you're not going to have to worry about these randomly falling out of this reader. Coupled with they do fit inside this aluminum shell, which helps keep them even more secure. So far, since I've received this from Freewell, I've been using it to copy photos from the SD cards, the micro SD cards, and the CF Express Type B cards that all of my different cameras use, and I've had no real problems with it. We're going to talk a little bit about performance here. We're going to measure some of the performance here in a little bit, but I've had no real problems with it. Now, when I'm traveling, what I often do is I use an iPad Pro to handle my backups. That way I can keep my computer at home, don't have to take as much bulk with me, but I'll still have a device with me where I can make copies of the images on my cards to an external SSD drive. And I use an iPad Pro for that. And this device is compatible with iPads that have the USB-C port. So I just have to take this, plug it in the iPad, and I can read the cards right off of here. Now in my workflow, I actually use a USB-C hub because I like to have a SSD drive to copy to. So I have tested it with that as well. I've plugged in my USB-C hub, I've plugged in the Pro Card Reader to it, and then I've plugged in my SSD drive, and I've been able to copy files from one to the other. So it works out well for that flow. So again, fits in perfectly for my travel, keeping things efficient, keeping things easy to find, and as multi-use as possible. So let's run a few speed tests on this reader. For these, we'll be connected to my MacBook Pro, and I'll be doing 3 tests on each of the following cards. I'm going to test my CF Express Type B cards, my SD cards, and my micro SD cards. Now, I don't have a CF Express Type A card, but I'm pretty sure having those 3 cards to test will be pretty representative of how the speed transfer for this card reader works. I'll be using the AGA System Lite test app for these speed tests, and I have it configured to do a 4 gig file size for the read and write, and I will perform at least 3 times for each card and sort of take the average of each. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll check back in after these tests, and I'll provide my final thoughts on the Freewell Pro Card Reader. So I tend to not get too lost in overanalyzing of speeds and performance, and I really focus more on will it work for me in the field. But based on these tests that I just did on those 3 cards, it seems to show this reader's performing on par with my other readers. The SD and micro SD cards seem right what I would expect from this, with this reader definitely compared to my other ones, no performance impacts. For my CF Express B card, the write speed seems real close to the card limit, but the read speed's likely being held back by the fast, but not fast enough to keep up with the card's capability USB-C connection. This is pretty much the case with any current reader I have, so really this is matching within a ballpark of what my other readers do, so I'm not really seeing any kind of performance hits by using this particular reader. And remember, speed tests can vary depending on the capability of your USB-C port on your computer and the types and models of the cards you're using. So take these results as you will. They're pretty representative of my setup and not 100% like what your results might be like. But with that said, I was pretty happy with how this worked. I don't see any problems with it. The performance seems just fine, and I think this will work out really well on my travels. Overall, I'm pretty impressed with this all-in-one card reader. I'm looking forward to taking it my next trip, which I happen to be packing up for now. But there are 2 things I'd like to see, and maybe a future enhancement, future release of this Pro Card Reader from Freewell. Neither of these are deal breakers. These are just small potential enhancements I think could make this device even more useful. The first, I'd like to see a USB-C port on this device itself so I could attach an external SSD drive. Because as I described earlier, my backup workflow for the iPad Pro is I have to connect a USB-C hub and then connect in a card reader and an external SSD drive. Now, if they put in a USB-C port in here, I could plug in my external SSD drive and I could do away with needing that hub. That would save me even more space and give me an even more useful device because I could just plug this in to my iPad, I could read my cards, and I could directly copy them to the external SSD drive. So I would like to see that. And then the other one, and at first when I thought about it, I was like, I'm not really sure they should include a CF Express Type A card on here. Now I'm sure that's just because of the type of cameras I shoot. I shoot Nikon, so they use the CF Express Type B as opposed to the Type A. But as I was starting to look at it, I think my root cause is I'd really like to be able to have one more CF Express Type B card on here as a backup, as a spare. So I've been looking at this thing and I'm trying to figure out what I would cut or what I'd remove. And I think my options would be either reduce the number of SD cards. 3 is nice, but I could get by with 2. I think that would be fine. So maybe free up by removing 1 spot for an SD card storage. 6 micro SDs is a lot, though I do have a lot of devices that use them now, but maybe chop off 2 of these, maybe that would free up enough room. Or maybe just drop the nano SIMs altogether. I don't think I have any need for the nano SIM. Maybe I just haven't run across it, but that would be a spot to free up space. But essentially, the root of it all is I'd like to be able to have one more CF Express Type B slot on here for storage. I think it'd be nice to have just that extra little bit of capacity if I was going on a slightly longer trip. So I'd like to see them maybe change the ratio of card slots that they can store to what it is. But again, that's not a huge deal. In all honesty, being able to just have one card on here is going to be super helpful. I tend to shoot a really large 128 gig on my main camera, a 64 on my other camera, and I usually really only carry 1 or 2 anyways. But for those times I'd like to carry 2 spare CF Express cards, I think it'd be really handy to have an extra spot for that on here. But again, not a big deal. So beyond those 2 small things, it's super nice to have a device that can read all my typically used memory cards. It seems to be performing very well based on my speed tests and how I've been using it recently, and it offers storage for my spare media cards on top of that. So for my usage of the Pro Card Reader so far, it seems like this is a fully capable device and should serve me well in my travels, save me a bit of space, and make it easy to be sure I have the right card reader for every situation. Very happy with this Pro Card Reader from Freewell. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see future landscape photography content from me, including tips, tricks, behind the scenes, mini gear reviews like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And thank you for watching.